Hey guys, Mustache Tom here to review The Cleanup Crew. Now, I've not seen any trailers for this movie, I just sort of stumbled upon it. So, with that being said, we're just gonna still look at it as objectively as possible. So we start off with the movie following Antonio Banderas' character, who is the antagonist of the movie, Mr. Barrett, so I'll call him Barrett for short. And he has hired on, with a 15% cut of his money, these two corrupt cops. And in dealing with negotiations, he likes a little game of Russian roulette. That is where you take a revolver and you put one bullet in and you spin it and you see if you get the gunner bullet or not by pulling that trigger. So he does that to see if he'll work with this guy. Turns out he does so. So he has a plan to collect some money. So he sends a squad of 2 people over, and they have, on the opposing side, they have a squad of 2 members, and a gun out between these 2 opposing members. Gun it out. So his money gets stuck there. Mr. Barrett's, that is. And one of the 4 survive the attack, the gun attack. This is where the cleanup crew arrives on the scene to clean up the mess. However, upon cleaning, one of them, by the name of Chuck, finds the case, and they find out that eventually this has plenty of money in it. So they start to think to themselves, the 4 of us could get the money instead. While the leader, I suppose I'll call her, says that the money is dirty and thus will have a trail that will lead them to trouble, as it were. And trouble does ensue in certain aspects, that's for sure. All the while, between our cleanup crew, there are 2 of them, this guy and a girl, are trying to get married, but they're pretty low on ends. So this money's looking pretty good, all things considered. They find out that it's $2 million in cash. After getting the locker combination from the 4th guy that they take with them. And they move him to go higher up the chain to learn some more information after. This is after, by the way, one of them invades their place to get the money back. So they have the hostage in this place. The only thing that's separating these 2 people, the hostage and the person investigating, is the yellow tarp. He could call out. There seems to be no separation. He beats up the guy, Alex, by the way, that's his name, to essentially find the briefcase. He does not do so somehow successfully. He fails upward to a degree, I guess, because he gets to live. At least for now, anyway. And so, through this process, they do manage instead to capture the future wife-to-be. So obviously now he wants her back, and the money's still with them, the cleanup crew. So the leader suggests that they just return the money, see what happens. All in all, that does not go well. She is held there, and their group is attacked, even. the cleanup crew. Luckily, Chuck has some heavy firepower on his side. And then, as I mentioned, then they go to proceed to climb up further up the chain. And one of the more unbelievable parts of the movie happens where a group of 6 people set out, all strapped with guns. They surround Chuck. He has 2 guns. And he manages to just spin around and kill the 6 with his 2 guns, excuse me. It's simply by spinning around and shooting, with 6 people surrounding him, reminding you. So, there's that silliness. So, we see that our Mr. Russian will let Barrett try his luck on the girl that they have captive now. She also gets a blank, so she gets to live. So now, with being up the chain, they eventually figure out the location where this money transaction is going to happen between the corrupt police and Mr. Barrett himself. They finally find the place, so they get there. So, when one of them falls unconscious due to drugs, they are forced to gun out. So, Alex is pinned out. He is reinforced by the leader, and once they are cleared of the bottom floor, they go to where Mr. Barrett is. He has a gun. He has the same gun he's been using, the Russian roulette gun. He tries to fire it upon Alex. It blinks for the 3rd time. And thus, Alex returns fire, successfully, obviously, and kills Mr. Barrett in the process. And they take their money, and they walk away. And that was the cleanup crew. I think a nice little extra, oomph would have been to have Alex, even after the gunshot, take the other guy's gun, Barrett's gun, and aim it at Barrett, and then fire, just to see it actually fire off the next shot. I think that would have been a much more, ooh, they were that close, sort of vibe to it, just to see. I think cleaning up that to have a nicer button would have been nice, an ending. I think cleaning up, to use the pun, yes, I'm not averse to that, but making working their way up the chain with the 2 versus, the 1 versus 6 thing a lot more clean by having him actually work through them instead of them encircling him and embarrassingly miss with them all firing and him simply dodging in time by just slightly turning out of the way. That part is probably, again, the most ridiculous part of the movie. Clean up that aspect of it, make sure that it makes sense and that visually you're telling a more, a more expertise, in a more believable scenario rather than this, at least in that part. So yeah, I think this movie, outside of that issue, is pretty neat. It definitely is a little out of the box, I suppose, in terms of the setup goes. Though, the cleanup crew was initially cleaning in the literal sense, and then they sort of just get into this higher end sort of debacle with this group by taking the money, obviously. I think it would have been interesting to see them fighting their tendencies a little bit more throughout the movie. Like, even as late as the warehouse where they're like, oh, we should probably actually clean this up too, but they just leave the bodies there. So it's like, oh, not much of a cleanup crew anymore, I guess. Anyway, I don't know. I do think that there are some obvious, like, little beats that they tackle in this movie. Like, for example, Alex has never killed anyone beforehand, and then he gets his hands dirty. And seeing that progress, with Chuck being the one that is more proficient in military fighting sequences and whatnot. And again, that more embarrassing scene plays out. And as far as the antagonist goes, he seems very much obsessed with this book. He keeps quoting from it and using it as sort of this way of lifestyle. Very, very Art of War. It's definitely one piece that I'm at least familiar enough with to be like, yeah, I could see someone getting obsessed with a book like that, like The Art of War itself. In terms of, like, philosophy, in terms of how to handle war. Again, the book is literally called The Art of War, so he has his own obsession with this book, and using those ideals to carry out his plans and seeing how successful they are. And it gets him pretty far, though his men underneath him seem to be rather incompetent, or at least the one directly under him seems to be one of the most incompetent. And I think I would have cleaned up that character to make him a little bit more of a threat in terms of presentation-wise. And then match that energy with Chuck, because those two interact directly at a point during the warehouse. Those two scuffle directly. So to have two characters that close together but in opposition, I think would have made a lot more sense. We have the leader who goes a little bit back and forth about what she's trying to do. She's trying to keep her kids safe. So she's like, okay, maybe the girlfriend's already dead, so let's just leave the money where it is. And then she does come around to being like, okay, I'll help you guys, when she also arrives at the warehouse. So she goes back and forth a little bit in terms of, like, where her alignment seems to be. So I think in terms of a score, I think I'd probably give this one a 6 out of 10. I think there's definitely some potential here, but there's definitely a few parts, and to use the pun, to clean up both the script and the action, just to make sure that it's tighter and that it fits together better. And that is my review of The Cleanup Crew. And if you've been enjoying that, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. 100 to my petition to help out small YouTubers. Second to my PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And third to my Discord server, you can join, collab, shield, all that cool stuff for free. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.